This conference will now be recorded.
Brian's gonna make little copies of that big map, so you guys can have them. We'll talk about that at the end.
Survey?
Yeah.
Survey says. I don't know where I want to
What's that?
go. I don't know where I want to land.
You can scan that works too.
No, that ain't gonna happen. You got mic on or anything, or?
No, he's not gonna be making it tonight.
Okay. So we can go, right? Call meeting to order. Approve the agenda.
I don't know if we need to break it out specifically, but the priority list project updates, I do have some minor updates as far as the disc golf course go. I don't know if we want to just talk about that during section A or if you want to subsection to A to actually talk about that at all. There's a couple questions I have.
We'll put that in with the priority list.
Okay.
When we're talking there.
Approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approve the minutes.
I'm a voting member or not?
Hmm?
Am I a voting member on this?
No.
I didn't think so.
No,
I'll just be a fly on.
you're just you're just the guy to take the stuff we want you to take to the council.
Bring it on.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Approve counts payable. Do you know, Brian or Miranda, that Red Wing glass, was that just one window? I know there was a couple that were broke.
Let me look here for the voucher. I know it was
Hope it's two. Holy smokes, we've been better off putting a whole window in.
I hope it's 7.
I can't remember what put the order in.
I know a window sash, or a lot of times just as
Let's see.
much as a window
It
something.
is install 3.
3 windows. Well,
Yep.
it makes me feel just a little bit better than. Okay, good.
The Minnesota Energy Utilities, what is that for specifically? Does that break down just to like certain?
It doesn't really break down, it's just for the pool as a whole.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it doesn't show us like what is to heat the pool versus the water that goes through or the bathhouse or anything.
And the supplies at Gherkins, was that more stuff for the benches or was that for the
It was
horseshoe?
lumber, so I feel like it was the horseshoe. It doesn't specify, but it
I
looked
don't know
to
if it
me
was
like that's
framing
what
up
it would
more
be for.
cement benches or if it was the horseshoe thing.
More, if we bought most of the stuff for the horseshoe?
I think we
'Cause that was like
should be about
700.
done. So it's between benches and the horseshoe pit, it would be
Okay,
one of those two. Or picnic tables, I should say.
this Americold, Americold is it called?
No, so they had set up an event for July, I think it was, and then they ended up having to back out, but they had paid via card, so they got refunded for the shelter, or for the deposit, not the shelter fee.
They've done that twice now, 2 years in a row, haven't they?
Yeah, this is the second summer in a
Okay.
row. Otherwise, a lot of this stuff, there's two of them or more than two of them because the months overlapped. And Excel, there's three of them up there because we have a different Excel account for like every single thing we have in this town. So some of that, two of that is campground and I think one of them is pool or softball fields. We have different accounts for a lot of different things.
With the refund, was that gonna be one we were gonna discuss at some point, that there is no more refunds for any reason?
Nope, that's why we're not asking for a refund because it's non-refundable. That one's just their deposit
Oh, gotcha.
because they paid the $200 via card.
Okay, good deal.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
I'll second.
A second, to pay the accounts payable. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, well, let's jump right in at priority list project updates. I've been thinking about that priority list for this whole month here. I do a lot of thinking on my mower. I think we need to clean this up a little bit. Get our projects that have been in the works for 2 years done. I know I've talked to Mike a couple times and he said that the city crew was gonna get at some of this stuff, like putting in the countertops in the shelter, but that's been going on for 2 years. And my personal feeling is, he's gotta tell us if he can't do it this fall yet. We need to hire it done and get it done. Because we wanted that ready to go for last spring when we started renting that out. And I don't wanna wait till next spring and it isn't done again. So that would just be my suggestion on that.
When's the bathroom gonna be done?
When is the bathroom gonna be done? Shortly after we start them.
I was gonna say, I think concentrate on the bathroom first.
What's
Make
that?
sure that's ready to go before spring.
Well, we're shooting on that, but that's a whole nother, all this stuff can be done, We were waiting till the middle of August for the rafters to get here.
I know, yeah.
And now we're waiting for, as Larry Holtz said, I brought this along, when we got his bid, he said, Fred, if you help, I'll donate my labor. So that's gonna be worth waiting for in mine, but our goal is to, shoot for that, get done. And I've been always been busy for a little while here, but I've been talking to Larry the last week here and he's trying to, I said, pick a Saturday. I got enough guys that we can come and we can get that thing thrown up in a Saturday, so.
So everything is here? Everything is ready to go? Or are we still waiting on something?
Well, the rafters were what we were, and they're here, and everything else they should have on hand down here, other than maybe the siding, but I know Mike's got to stay in touch with him to get that coming.
Yep.
So,
I like where you're headed with that. Is it too much to ask or would it be too much to maintain the priority list if we, rather than the priority column, if we put in like a start date and then maybe the last column could be like an estimated completion date?
Yeah.
So we can see how long things have been sitting on here.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that would be good.
That would be nice.
No, that's a good idea. But even I was looking on this too, the priority list, the pool we bring up anyway, to me, just, that's a whole separate thing for cost and stuff. It
Right.
kind of throws to me that in my eyes, doesn't even have to be on there.
Correct. Well, that's the other thing too, under the comments section, we really should have something in there that says why it's not moving forward. Like the pool would be a good one that just says, we're waiting for bonding, we're waiting. I mean, that's kind of like an inactive section. We could almost split this up to active priority and inactive priority. The stuff at the bottom still hasn't fallen off the list, but we can just say we don't need to discuss it unless it's something changes to bring it up into the active
Yeah.
list. And then have a started date and an estimated completion date, maybe to help keep things moving forward. Because I agree with you, Fred, there's things on here like things at the ballpark that have been on here for years.
Yeah, and that's something I want to talk about too, is that, that's something we want, I think, have to decide how much, on the ballpark thing, I think like the field lights and the batting cage, that's not really going to be our responsibility. If that's something that they want, they're going to have to fundraise for that. To me, the ball fields, yeah, we help out with the dugouts, we help out with the sand, help,
Correct.
but all that extra stuff, I don't think that even has to be on there because it's really not that's my personal feeling on it, and then the dugouts, how much
Yep.
do I think we go back and forth all the time. It's like you said, when we put a memo in there, it says, okay, this is what we agreed on and, because what's left out there is mainly the fencing and the roof.
Yep. Fencing and roof.
And
And I gave Mike the pricing and the drawing to get secondary quotes or more quotes for the fencing. I don't know if he has, and if he hasn't, we can wait on that. It's obviously not something that they're going to be using for the rest of the season. So whether or not it happens now or happens sometime before April, May of next year, it's not going to make a break out there.
One of the other reasons I wanted to get in there and figure out, because, we got that campground sitting there too, but to me, we're gonna have to take our money first and get these projects done and then look and see how much money we got, that campground might have to wait another year until we build up, I think that's gotta be our priority, is get these open-end things done, and then we get them done, then we can look and see how much money we got for the campground, because when does that grant have to go in again?
Goes back in March,
In March, so
by March. So.
we can get this all dialed in and then see
Yep.
where we're at for money on. And I think when we get close to that too, I personally think we need to rebid some of that stuff again because,
I agree.
yes,
Everything.
Yeah.
because when Mike and I was originally looking at that, we were right around that $200,000. And then all of a sudden we went to that 340 is like, I had a little question mark on myself on that. To me, if it was good now, if it's that much, well, maybe we just.
I think that's true of everything on the list. Used to be a $4 million pool, now it's a $5 or a $6 million pool.
Yeah.
I mean, even the dugouts, the concrete, the fencing, what we could have bought 3 years ago, won't even buy one of them now. So
Right.
that's why I think pushing it forward, and I agree with Fred, get a priority going on here, get an estimated completion date, get firm numbers. These are obviously all budgetary. They're all rounded off except for,
I think that's a good start, and then I think for 2023, you guys should pick like 3 projects and then
Yeah, almost
Go for
like a
'em.
capital plan, basically.
that way we don't feel so here, there,
Yeah,
everywhere.
it's like, oh, we can't do this because we're starting this one. And it's like, yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm headed with this. Let's get this cleaned up.
And then even more so.
Here.
Oh, go ahead.
What on here can we finish this fall?
Well, hopefully we can finish the bathrooms. That's our goal, is to not finish them, but get them finish them by next spring anyway.
And that's both of the lines of the bathrooms?
By the enclosed shelter.
Okay.
Campground, shower, bathrooms, that should be down here with
bless you. Gesundheit.
Gesundheit.
or we don't have that, do we? The
Yeah.
more seasonal campsites, the 200,000, and then bathrooms,
Is part of that?
campground, shower, bathroom, more seasonal sites. Those two are together.
Put together, okay.
So the bathrooms by the enclosed shelter, our goal is to get that by next spring here, and a majority of it this fall. And I think the ballparks we gotta decide and that we gotta decide the,
Disc golf?
the ramps over there.
Oh, the skate park.
The skate park, what we're gonna do there, I was hoping that guy was gonna be, I don't know where we're at with that because I went over there a couple Sundays ago and them sheets are really separate and they're getting to
They
be
are.
dangerous. We gotta decide either we're gonna fix it or get rid of it.
Yep. Yeah, I was over there and took some pictures myself too. I can share with Miranda if she wants to add it to the next meeting, but it's getting bad.
Mike had given us a price once, about like $20,000, but I thought that included the panels and then that guy, didn't he want to add some kind of a structure over there too?
I don't remember that. I just know the panels were really expensive.
Because I went online looking for these thick panels and stuff, and I found them for $180 to $250 a piece. And we need about 15 of them.
Do we still have his contact information?
Yeah, Mike actually just asked me for his email last Friday. So did you get a hold of Mike about him? Were you questioning Mike about him?
I called him a couple times wondering if he had gotten, because I was hoping he could come tonight, so we could just.
Yep, so Mike did reach out to him.
So do we tonight want to decide which one of these we want to try and figure out that we can finish up by the end of the fiscal year or calendar year?
As long as you don't commit any more money out of the fund, the restricted fund. I think in the restricted fund, you have money for the campground. Basically the bathrooms and possible campground expansion. So if you're in thoughts of holding the campground off, then you could go into that fund a little bit more. It's the 226 fund to finish off these projects. And then if you get the grant, I think you probably do have a year, maybe 2 years to spend the money, so.
So how much does it cost to finish the dugouts? Just approximate.
I don't have it in front of me. I emailed it to Mike. I thought just the fencing and the poles, the chain link around there, was it 20,000? I want to say it was like $4,000 just worth of fencing and chain link to go around there. And I did not get a blueprint so that he could get quotes for the roofing materials, but the roofing materials I would have to requote. The last time I requoted that was like a year ago.
So the poles and just the chain link?
It's 8 feet tall. It's the big 12 gauge. It's the same gauge fence that is part of the foul fence pole right now, so that all of that matches what that goes around. We could attempt to do it cheaper and do more of like a home style fencing, a shorter fencing, but I don't think it's going to match. I don't think it's going to hold up. I don't think it's going to look good. But that was the 12 gauge fencing with the 8-foot high poles that we have out there right now to match what we have. And then I gave that drawing and my preliminary quote through Menards to Mike. Mike was going to get some secondary quotes to see how that all filled out.
So
But my goal was to try and get the roofing materials also drawn up so that he could get 1 or 2 quotes for that as well. So we could just come in with a firm number per Kim's request and say, this is what it would take to completely finish the dugouts and be completely done with them. So I can still have that all done if we want to push that out 1 more month and have that for our next meeting, because this meeting got pushed back a week anyway because of the holiday. So it's kind of a short one. I can get those numbers and get with Mike and get some firm pricing as an action item for next month.
Is that something you're gonna do yet this year, you thinking, if the money's there?
The polls wouldn't be hard to do. I mean, that's something that we, just with a volunteer group, can literally, I'm just looking for money for the materials. So once we get that, we have plenty of volunteer people just like in the community.
Get quotes on this stuff, and it's not gonna happen until next year, because we're back in the same boat.
Right.
Getting quotes again next year.
Correct. No, this is something that once the materials are there, the labor is going to be all donated. It's going to be all voluntary to just set up 6 posts per dugout and then set that up.
And you're anticipating just fencing this year, not the roof?
Could do either. Could certainly, if we want to try and keep the cost down so it doesn't, occur any additional costing over the new year if pricing goes up. But lumber's so volatile, I don't know that it's going to like double in price between now and next spring. I don't have a crystal ball either.
Lumber, I mean, not counting the extra sidings, but the actual lumber is kind of back down to where it was before it started going up.
Right, so that's what I'm saying,
So-
between what the cost is today versus that crystal ball of what it might be next spring. My goal, and the reason why it's kind of gotten delayed with the roofing thing, is I want to design up something so that the roof can sit literally on the big posts that we have for corner posts for the fence. So we don't need additional 4x4s or anchors or something that's just tacked in that could get ripped off. Literally have something that just sits right on top. I did see a couple designs that show that, so.
Is Mike working with Roger on that, or are we gonna, there's not a Roger thing?
Technically, any fence over 7 feet would require a permit. Building a roof, it's not a shed. Yeah, it would require a permit, so it would be a Roger thing. So no, he's not working with Roger yet, because I thought he was thinking that it was gonna be next spring, so he didn't wanna go out and get quotes for something we aren't gonna do until next spring, and then have to re-quote everything. But if you want him to go do it, get to it, then I'll tell him to go ahead and keep moving with that.
So I didn't even think of the permit thing. Is that something where we can't ask volunteers then to build this?
You
do
still
this?
can.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have to have a permit. You know, it's a roof, there should be people under it. It's not a storage shed. It's over 200 square feet.
I'm guessing where the permit thing's gonna come involved is he's gonna look at how to
It's
anchor
gonna
this
get-
thing
yeah.
down.
So then you have a tough time putting it on those metal poles. You may be building something that is drilled into the concrete slab.
Right.
Because, to prove the wind loads, the uplift, things like that. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get there without a design connection, which is an engineer, which then you don't have enough money for sure.
What's another 4 years?
No, it can be done, it's just, I would suggest not putting it on top of those poles.
Right. Yeah. I guess then I would need help from someone to design or figure out what that's going to be if it has to require a code or a permit or something.
Or Mike, you're gonna have to decide, you know,
If this is one of the,
Right.
if it's something you want to finish up this year, we'll go after it.
I would even, now, if I might be wrong on this, wouldn't it be better to get the roof on before the fencing? Because you want them out of the sun, you know,
Correct.
they're behind a fence now.
Yep.
So I mean, if you're gonna kind of split this up into a couple years, but if we did it all, is the money there to do that?
Well, you'd be digging into your set aside for the campground.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. Do we want to just get this stuff done that's, we've talked about for 3 years here?
I'm definitely ready, and we can get the volunteers if the materials are there. So I'm ready at any time to start. It's just waiting for the materials.
That's something. You guys are going to put the fence in too then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that would, I mean, going back to the code thing, I don't know, but I mean, this is just a couple post hole diggers and putting together. I mean, this is not an overly complex structure. This is very simple. I think volunteers put together the picnic shelter that was out there. Is that correct? That was originally done with the big, yeah, this is a
Probably.
very, very miniature version of that.
So Terry Buck and a bunch of those guys that do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not gonna be done, just needs to have a permit, unfortunately, or fortunately.
I mean, even if, you know, we don't want to price it out, but we price it out and get it out, like the fencing, we can price it out, get it bought, so we don't have to worry about going back and stick it out in the shelter there, and same with the lumber.
It could all.
Get it bought, get it stuck in there and get it up. But I think if we have to go through Roger, that might take a little bit.
It won't take long, especially if you decide to put it on the slab with some post holders.
tie downs, yeah, whatever meets code or whatever they need to do.
It's gonna be open, so it won't be that much wind load and uplift. If you had a closed side with windows or something, with smaller
Yeah,
windows, then you
okay.
have,
It just blows through, okay. So that,
yeah, so it won't be bad. It's just one of those things that requires a permit. Or I should say, I would require a permit when I was in Rochester. We need to ask Roger. He's the guy with the,
do we ask them before or after? So I would say that project, the bathrooms and the countertop should be projects that we kind of buttoned up. And then where do we throw in well, you were gonna talk about the disc golf. Because we gave the okay to go ahead and then we're gonna still do sponsorship, so that's not gonna really cost us anything.
Right.
Correct.
Well,
So the bathroom, the dugouts, and then the counter, is that what we decided? We're picking those three? That we think we can get done yet before the end of the year?
Mhm.
And Fred, if you need any help with that, I'm happy to.
Okay.
I know you guys don't swing hammers anymore, but I can run an air nailer or do whatever you need. I'm happy to help.
because I'm sure that's changed since, when we originally talked about that was gonna be like a $35,000 project,
which one was
the bathrooms.
that you're doing? Oh, yeah, I don't know.
And
That's the whole thing. We don't know exactly what it all costs because
what's left on it is, from the quotes I got, is $2,800 for the plumbing. Electrical was $1,500, but if he needs electrical panel, it's another $2,500, so there's $4,000 there. Lumber pack, I think he told me we were gonna be right around 15,000 left on that.
$22,000.
About what's left. Yep. But that one we gotta just do.
Yes, for sure. And you can recoup some of that in fees because with the bathrooms up there, that place becomes a lot more valuable
Yes,
as far as rental fees go.
well, that and even the sink that people have requested and stuff, so we can, okay.
There were 4 projects, right? Bathrooms, the sink and countertop, dugouts, and disco.
Correct.
Because the money for the baseball out there that you've raised, that all went towards cement.
All went towards
So there-
concrete
there's no more-
benches.
no
That
more
got
of
eaten up.
that there.
There's nothing left of the funds that I raised.
I think we went a couple thousand over, actually.
Yep.
After the changes.
Yep. Okay, any other thing we want to do with that? Just, do you want to take some of this stuff off of the?
Well, I think if we revise the list like we had talked about, putting the active projects up top and the inactive ones down below, and then putting, under the priority list, maybe we put an estimated completion date or even a start date on that side and a estimated completion date on the end column. And then we can put a status update underneath all the comments. So when we go through this, we can just say, this one is pending fundraising, or this one is pending, Burbach quote, or whatever it might be.
Trestle rebuild.
Yeah.
Like that?
That's why the park road will be pending.
So it would be better.
Right.
Let's leave a lot of this on here so we have it in the back of our mind,
Absolutely.
like the park road, like you said. That
And it gives you
we
something
we
to
have no
look for
idea.
next year.
That could be,
Decide how much we can afford to move up or what should take priority. there.
Yep.
Can we orient it this way on the piece of paper so we have room for comments? Thank you.
The more columns we add, the wider
Okay.
it gets.
11 by 7, yeah, 11 by 17.
I just have to ask, what is this Charleston Edition playground?
Oh, yeah, I was looking at that. When I first got on, they, up in that addition up there, they wanted, a playground where these other subdivisions have, and that's part of the deal. Either they put money towards the parks or they get, well, up there, the unfortunate thing, the park board decided that they weren't gonna put this is the way I understand it, a playground up there, and there's, underneath the wires, there's gonna be a walking path. And that's what the park, because there was really no good place.
Mhm.
Usually, when they do a development, they're supposed to leave a space for
Right.
Or
whatever,
pay off the
or
difference.
pay off on it. So.
And so I thought that land was then set aside for the walking trail, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right, so that could possibly just be eliminated, because the only reason it was on here, because some people up there that had just moved in brought it up to our
I think you
attention
were kind
again.
of thinking too, with the new school going in,
Yep.
maybe there could be some room for
So, yeah.
collaboration.
And I'm glad you asked that question because that was something I wanted to bring up anyway. With the Christ Lutheran School, that's getting going like now. They're going to start moving dirt here pretty soon.
Oh, really?
And so our discussions with them, part of it was an area for a playground. Now, they don't technically own the area that the playground would probably go on. And if we look closer at it, the playground is pretty much below the big lines. And so I don't think that's such a good place anyway. You can hear those lines snapping and stuff, when the power's going through. I don't know if I'd have my kids playing there too much under those power lines. So that potential spot that had been discussed by Neil and Alan Schumacher, and when they first started discussing the school back in 2019. I don't know. I don't like the spot. It'd be kind of up to the park board at some point. And otherwise, the school would just do the parkland dedication and pay some money instead of putting in a park up there or providing land for a park.
Are they doing some kind of playground thing up there?
They'll have a playground on theirs, yeah.
And that won't be under?
Huh?
I suppose that'll be all fenced in though, and they don't want people using it when they're not there.
It's down there quite a bit. I mean, they're gonna move a lot of dirt up there, so. it's
Okay,
gonna be-
so-
You have to go all the way down in there and then down by the school and to get to where their playground will be.
When they talked about this, when I first got on, I drove around to a lot of the neighborhood up there and stuff. Well, most of the people in the backyards had a better playground
That's exactly right.
that we would have put in. So I think it's been designated for parks, the walking path, and to me, it's not and that's what we explained to them when they came to us and stuff, that's what it was. That's how we
So then does it fall to our responsibility in our budget to put that walking trail in there?
Well, trails have not been park.
Trails are
It
the
would have
city.
been, it would be parkland that's dedicated for trails, which we have quite a bit of. But no, at this point, trails are separate from parks. We've got a separate fund for that. So we've got some money in. Not enough to go all the way up there yet, but we're gonna be getting closer with Jefferson because the trail will be up the one side of Jefferson. It'll stop a little short, of course, because the city ends right now there. So as the years go by, it'll connect eventually, but not anytime soon. I guess I would not have the playground on the priority list anymore. May come up again, but
Yeah.
as for a priority list,
Then we wait,
I'd take it off.
then we wait till then.
Honestly, I don't think it's been brought up
No.
since I started here. So that was kind of when we first put it on the list and it really hasn't been brought up since.
So that definitely can go
So
away.
let's, ixnay it.
That was a long way around to exactly what you're gonna do anyway.
We can just say that whoever is in charge of the trails, if they want to put a trail underneath that land there that's supposed to be used
Let's
for it, they can
designate
have
that
it.
as a trail. Okay. So, okay, any more questions or comments on that?
Not on that, the disc golf, I guess Mike and I had met and walked the actual course down there, went through some of and he did a great job. Thank you, Michael, for putting together. He's got all the firm costing, current costing for Kim, so we know exactly what it's gonna take to to get the T signs, to get the baskets, things like that. The one question, there was a couple questions actually when we were walking through there that we had is the existing baskets. If we're going to go with the new style basket that will allow some advertisements, some rings on them, we would be replacing the existing 9 that are out there with 18 all brand new baskets. So they got 2 different kind of price points. One of them was more of an entry level, and Michael can probably speak more to this when you click on the actual links. They look almost identical, but one is made with a little bit better finish on it, like a zinc plating that'll hold up to the UV and the elements a little bit better, and has, so the bottom one is the one that I would recommend. That's one that has the better warranty. And if we went that route, I think we would get more longevity out of the baskets. But that dynamic disc on the top, that ring there, we can have vinyl. Basically, if you think of it as a bumper sticker, you could have a sticker, a decal made up that goes around that whole thing for the sponsor. So if someone wants to sponsor that basket, their name is where the dynamic disc would be, as well as if someone wants to sponsor in addition to the T sign, we have that. But it would be a very nice looking uniform course throughout the whole thing. There is one potential option for a bonus tee box, if you will. When they held their event, they had kind of a challenge tee box that came to this side of the river. So it was closer over here and allowed them to go across the river. I don't know if that's needed for the kind of the amateurs or the children that would be playing, but it's something that we could potentially, all it would be a cost of a cement slab and then one more sign. So literally for less than $500, we could put in that advanced tee box. It would be almost at the entrance of the covered bridge over here on this side, right where our little roundabout is there, just off into the grass on what would be the west side, closer towards the public library. Just a short little 4x8 chunk of concrete there with a small little T sign that would be very inconspicuous that just said, you know, advanced T box for some of the advanced users. But I can get a map together, but essentially I think we had almost decided last meeting that as long as we can fundraise to recoup these costs, the upfront money of up to $8,000 was basically going to be approved to say, let's go ahead and do this. Let's give Michael permission to go down and start buying the baskets, get the stuff. We'll figure things out and we'll help him lay out where it's going to go before we start doing the concrete.
And I do have I forgot my phone in the car, but I could send an email with like a Google Maps layout, kind of a potential ideas and stuff. So I'll be right back with that. And I know we talked about also finding 9 basket that looked like the old 9 basket. So I'll be right back because I need my phone for that. It's the only thing I don't have.
So what we were really doing during that meeting was trying to iron out, could we reuse any of the baskets that were down there, trying to be frugal to see if we could do that. And it really didn't match. I had reached out to Miranda about where we bought the last ones and whether or not we had an invoice from them, or they didn't have anything that could be added to their existing baskets to allow us to advertise for that. They didn't have really us on file as to what we had for that style thing. So it really didn't, we can't refurbish them is what it boils down to unless we found someone custom. I reached out to a local sandblaster / powder coater. And by the time we quoted this and everything, it was $100 and some odd dollars just to redo the bottom portion of the basket without welding up a knife. It's cheaper to just buy it all brand new. If we wanted to, we potentially could take the 9 baskets that we have here. We could repaint them ourselves. We could have a raffle for them. They could be like maybe prizes during golfing events or something. If we have a disc golf event or something on here for home users that want to put one in, or if we want to redistribute them to other parks throughout the Zumbrota area, if we want to put just up a sample tee box at other parks, they don't have to come down to the park. Whatever we want to do with them, I think we could probably repurpose the 9 baskets that are there and recoup some of the costs as part of the fundraising efforts.
That's a great idea.
So is he, I mean, we're buying this stuff off from him. Does he have anybody that would be interested in them?
We really didn't discuss whether or not we would put them out there for sale.
I was thinking trade them in.
Right. Yep. I don't know that they have
But
an
but my,
actual.
my whole thought, when I've been talking to guys out there
Yep.
playing and stuff that go around the tournaments and
Sure.
that, they recommended that we go, because the newer baskets, when they throw into them, they had a name for it, and these are really outdated the way they talk.
Yeah, so there's kind of this, so these baskets that are current, they're mid-level permanent baskets, that are, basically, made by one of the most popular manufacturers. There were the Disc Golf Association baskets, and they're Mach 5s. But they're old Mach 5s, so they've been around for very long time, and so they don't have the same type of chains and construction that the new type of baskets have, and so they definitely are a little bit outdated. I was able to find 18 baskets of the same type through that are only about 3 years old through another course who are upgrading their baskets. And I was able to get a price of $3,800 for 18 baskets. And so there's also that option as well if we are interested in going that route. They are the same kind of baskets, but they are only about 3 years old in comparison to these baskets. And I don't know how long the course has been around, but I've heard it's been around for.
These are the same type of baskets that we have?
Yes, these are the same type of baskets that you have right here. And so then you'd be able to replace just the bands in like the bottom cages to the old 9 existing holes. So they're upgraded and they're in a better condition. And because the poles are the same regardless, they're the same construction, and they're just steel poles that hold the baskets. And so you can switch out the bands, top bands in the baskets to get newer ones in there. And then you have 18 of them. And so you're able to put in, 9 other, or 9, or however, you would have an extra 9 left over that are all, so you would have a total of 27 baskets that are the same for this course. And you don't have to use all 27. That's not even, because I already know there's, up in Red Wing, there is another course designer who is looking, they have the same baskets and they're trying to purchase 9 more to make their course an 18-hole. And so I could get in contact with them and see if we wanted to sell 9 of those baskets to them. I don't know if that's an option that you might want to go. I mean, definitely the issue with these ones is the basket advertising. They don't have that nice big band around them that has the really big potential of, it's really easy to be seen, and you're able to have advertisement right up there.
Right.
But I didn't know if this would be an option. So there was one thing that I know that me and Troy talked about, looking at an alternative.
So the ones that you had just come to the meeting with today, that you said there's another course that are replacing their 18. They want to sell all 18. They want to sell them for $3,800. So that averages out to just over $200 a basket.
Yes.
Do you think the course in Red Wing would be willing to pay a similar amount for the 9 baskets we have if we were just literally to take them out and say, here's 9 baskets?
Yeah, 100%. They would pay, I was talking with them, they would pay up to $3,000 for 9 baskets. And
So if we could recoup some of the overhead costs here, I think it is a definite no-brainer to go towards the new basket with the newer style chain, go with the advertising that we can get a sponsorship for, and just go with 18 brand new baskets.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be to, based off of the pricing that you had reviewed with me,
Yeah.
the one that we had originally first pulled up right there on the screen is the Patriotic basket, which is basically just over $5,000 for 18 of them. and Michael had volunteered to go get them, bring them up. We can store them indoors until we're ready to start assembling them. But literally, as soon as we get the location for these where we want to go, we can get a group of his volunteers, myself, whomever else wants to volunteer, and we can put the posts in exactly where they want to go. And essentially, we got 75% of the golf course already expanded and ready to go. Now it's just cement slabs for the tee box. One of the items that Michael and I had discussed on the tee box is the concrete itself. And I apologize for not bringing in a drawing, but if you've ever seen the railing that we have at the pavilion here, the way we got that covered bridge kind of profile that looks like that, that's the way that we had talked about, suggested doing the cement pad. So it goes from narrow to wide, which is a very popular style tee box when people do concrete. So they got a little bit, it's almost like a shot put kind of thing. It starts narrow and goes wider. But if we can incorporate that, I would be happy to volunteer my time. We'll get some lumber from Gherkin or something, and we'll make up a form that looks like that covered bridge so that when we pour it, we can do something like that. So each tee box kind of ties in with the covered bridge theme on there. And then we can just pour those tee boxes, whether or not we want to do that yet this fall or early next spring. It's just a little bit of concrete work. I'm sure the people who already do the park benches know how much time it takes to do that. So that would be my recommendation, is to give Michael the go ahead to buy everything that he has quoted on here as far as the tee signs, the patriotic baskets, and to gather all that up. And then he, myself, Mary can work with the subcommittee to start getting the resources together to start putting this in. The only other thing that I would have that Michael may need permission for is the exact location. So Michael was going to work on an actual Google Maps so we could show.
It never came through.
Yep, so we could show exactly where it was going to go. Some of the concerns we had when we were walking through the park was trying to be courteous of the people who are walking and using the walking path so that you're not teeing off and going across the path
No.
at the least number of times. Obviously, we can't stay all within the confines of that, so some of them do cross the road when we get to the other side of the park, which is down by the basketball hoop / hockey rink area. There are going to be a few instances where it does get closer to things, but we're not putting a basket right next to Kids Kingdom or anything, so you got disc golf flying in there or anything, but
I've also had some.
And then we're gonna
alternative-
sell the 9 that we have.
Places, they're available as well, if we wanted to look at different spots. So I do have like a full map of all the potential locations, including the existing 9 holes, and kind of what could happen if the full maps pop up, because that'd be.
So I think just for tonight, even if the map doesn't quite work out, if we just voted on just saying, give Michael permission, yes, to go ahead and buy all of the baskets, all of the tee signs, so that we can get started on the layout and expansion of this, and then we'll firm up the location with the subcommittee. And we'll be very respectful of the existing surroundings that are down there. And then we'll reach out and hopefully get some help. I don't want to voluntold Mike and the crew, but whoever the cement crew would be that helps out with the benches, if we could get their support with the tee pads.
So then you get the tee pad, and then there's just another separate stand for the tee off thing.
So originally, Michael had quoted just like a 2x2, but I think we need to go with the same galvanized pole that we have for the basket. So it looks and ties all together and it's nice and permanent. We don't have any maintenance on it, because I think the 2x2 would start to rot and we'd want to paint it. And it just looks like it was very temporary. So I would suggest that we even quote maybe an additional 18, and they could maybe be from Menards. They wouldn't have to be from a Dynamic Disc or anything, but just some galvanized pole that could even be removable if we wanted to put a pin or a bolt in there, so that if you want to take it down for the snowmobile trail that goes through there or something, because we can take the baskets down, right? Have we ever taken them down? So maybe it's a non-issue as well. But at least then it would all tie together if we use the same galvanized piping or tubing.
What goes on that then for the actual?
That is the face of the actual tee box sign that says hole number 1, 300 yards, sponsored by, Sombrota Police Department. Congratulations, you got hole number 1.
$2,000.
Sponsorship for a basket for the cost of the basket then? Is that what you're doing, or what do you?
Yeah, so the sponsorships come into play. I've talked with a couple people on sponsorships, and I've already got people who are committed to sponsoring And so basically what we have is every basket being covered and every T sign being covered. So basically we have two sponsors for basically a T-pad, a sponsor for a basket, and two sponsors for the whole in general. And so it basically comes out to, we get around $550 per basket, and we're only spending about $350 in total materials, so you're making revenue on top of that. So you're getting about 200 extra back just for the sponsorships.
Yep.
And those things renew yearly, and so basically we will get that initial, it'll cover all the costs, and then you'll continue to get revenue from the course, because people want to advertise and put their name out there. I talked to Steve Johnson over at Zimbrota Ford, and he was super interested to be like a title sponsor, and donating a lot of money to the course, to be on like the main T sign with like a really big logo of his. And so he was super interested. I talked with him. And so I know we have a lot of people who are interested in that. And so once we kind of make, like, basically get everything approved and we're good to go forward and start ordering that stuff, then we can start going forward with those sponsorships and start receiving that and being able to recoup the costs of the initial baskets and T-pads and T-signs and things like that. And so.
So that includes the cement and everything then?
Yeah, it would include the cement and everything.
So like a sponsorship for this cost would be the same as what a T-box cost would be?
So this is actually cheaper. So if you're on this, that like people don't really like look at the band as much. And so basically we had kind of our sponsorship tiers. You had 100 and I believe 25 or 50. Then you had 125 and then 100. Or it could be 125, 100, 75. And so basically, and there's two of the 150 and two of the 125, or they could be, I don't remember the number specifically. And then one for the basket, because there can only be really one type of a sponsor on the basket. And so, yeah, it comes out to 550 in total. And that covers the entire cost of concrete, T-signs, the baskets. The signs are super affordable. I mean, I get all 18 T-signs for $163. And so, and then I'm having people sponsor those T-signs for $125 a piece. And so you're making $250 on a sign that costs $8. And so it's just all about advertisement. And people get that advertisement. And then once it kind of gets out there and people know, because we have, like, there's a specific app for disc golfers. And once they know that there's an 18-hole course permanently established here, they'll come play it. And the advertisement will hopefully pay out for those businesses who've decided to put their name out on there. And then we get to renew those every year. And so basically every year we just get a new sign that's $8. They pay us that money, like the sponsorship pays for that new sign. And basically we just keep going and you're able to make money on this course for years to come, because people will love to play it. And there's already a big community that wants to come out here and play it. And so.
So the sponsorship, do you go around to each business in town, or do you send something out, or?
I've been going door to door, talking to businesses. So I've gotten businesses from here. I've had some businesses, Teachers on Call, I think from like somewhere a little bit north, Cannon Falls, somewhere above there, that have reached out to me about that. And so, but I've gone around door to door. I went to the hardware stores, to other places, to.
That's my only thing, that I just would rather, I'd like to have the hometown businesses have the first opportunity versus we get a lot of outside and then all of a sudden,
Right.
there's no room for me. I mean, that's the only input I have on
Right.
that, is just make sure
Because the whole point is that they'll see a sign for a restaurant
Hmm.
on the route, and they're hungry after the round, and they're like, let's go check out this restaurant. And so that's the goal, is to create revenue not only for the park, but also for the businesses surrounding the area with these advertisements.
Well, you want to make that a motion with the old baskets and put that all in one and?
Correct. So for an action item, Michael and Mary and myself will work on the firm location, the map of how it's going to go. And then we will also work on the sponsorship list, the firm costing, and which businesses we can try and recoup some of this cost. But the motion is to give Michael permission and the money to buy the 18 patriotic disc golf baskets, along with the money for 18 tee box signs and enough money to do the concrete for 18 tee pads. And then we will get started. We will get the volunteer committee together and get the people that we can start doing this. And as long as Mary, myself, and Michael approve the location, we can start pulling down the boxes. I guess one action for you, Michael, would be to reach out to Red Wing and find out if they are willing to purchase the 9 baskets. That could happen very soon.
Yeah, I reach out to them tomorrow and talk to them, because even though they're just golfer who played at the event that we hosted here.
Right.
And so.
I'd like to not give them possession of the baskets until we at least have 9 new baskets to put in their place. But even if we put these baskets up in the exact same location on the exact same pipe that we have now, we could then keep an active golf course going.
Yes.
But we could let them, and we could recoup that money instantly.
Yes, that'd be what we could do, yeah, because the poles are exactly the same. So you just basically take off one basket and, you put on another one.
Correct.
It's super easy.
So the motion is to give Michael permission to buy the aforementioned 18 brand new patriotic baskets, tee box, and set aside any money we need for the 18 tee boxes, this concrete.
Right, and all that. and the
All that
are we-
combined together, and then
are
we're
we-
gonna fundraise to recoup all
Right,
that.
were you about in that $8,000 range yet still, or are we a little higher now? I know it was,
And
The baskets were at just over 5 when,
so, yeah, I do have a total of what everything would cost. Let me pull that up real quick. Right now with sponsorships, I have about $1,500 of committed sponsors that are willing to ready to pull the trigger to pay for advertisement. And so,
just your straight out-of-pocket cost without any sponsorship though, so that the city could fund it.
okay, all right, I can do that.
Will there be tax on that?
That's what I was gonna say, I would rather him give me the supply list of everything and then I can order it all.
Yeah,
Because
that-
we have
I
a tax
agree,
exempt
I agree.
status, so I would rather, I'm sure Kim would very highly frown upon us having to reimburse.
No, I agree, I'd rather have somebody from here go through that, and I can get the resources.
Yeah, we don't need you committing those funds either.
No, I don't want the funds, because I'd rather keep, I'd rather not have the funds in my possession, and so. So the total cost that I have, for everything in total, without tax, comes out to $7,000, $7,620. And that's kind of just, without taxes or anything added on to that, and so.
And I just want to clarify, that's 18 cages, 18 T signs, and then your estimate for the concrete work?
Yeah, so I right now have $800 as the estimate for the concrete work. I don't know if that is too low for what we're thinking, or is that like in the normal price range of what it would cost to get all that concrete in bulk and.
I'm guessing you're low.
I had asked Mike that, and we'd have to dig back through the minutes, but I thought he had a couple $100 in concrete per bench, and they were 4x8. So
I
that's
wanna
where.
say it was like $300 per
Right,
bench.
so I would estimate at least that same amount of concrete. Just, I mean, I know it's probably gonna
Per
be slightly
hole?
less, but per hole.
Okay.
So even if you put 250 in there per hole for the concrete,
That's 5,200. Isn't that not right? 18 times
Well, we have
300.
9 already. Because the 9 existing are
No,
not changing,
they're
right?
not, they literally are a little curb thing we're talking about putting in, so it would be all new.
All new
And
T-box.
some of them, like, I think we talked, like 7 of them would be in the exact same location. 2 of them would have to move in order to make room for the other 9, so there would, all of them would come out and it would be new.
$4,500 for.
Mhm. That's what I got.
But you're getting two things for the T-boxes right away, or just starting with
Like
the
the
18?
signs?
Yeah, I thought you were putting 2 on each T-box.
Nope, it's just one single sign. So there's 3 places for advertisement. There's the main course map that lays out the whole entire
Oh,
course,
okay.
kind of like we got now, but
Okay,
just
yep,
smaller.
yep.
Half of that would be the map, the other half would be like, here's your major sponsors, you know, and each square of that, you know, if it's a 6x6 would cost another $150. If someone wanted to buy 4 squares, they could pay 4 times the price. And then there's a small T sign, which is like, what do we say, 8.5 by 11 or something like that?
10 by 14.
Yeah, 10 by 14 at the beginning of the hole that says, brought to you by Fred Rash. And then the ring around it would be the third spot.
So are you saying that Patriot basket isn't $400 a piece?
No, because
Nope,
I get
he's
it
got a
for-
discount.
Because I am a wholesaler who has the connections to get it at the wholesale price. And so the wholesale price is $2.95 per basket.
And so even if we order it as the city, we can use your discount?
I will give you the information that you need
Yes.
to get
Okay.
to that, because I will put it in the order on my end, and then they'll send me an invoice, and then I can send you the invoice to pay for that, so that it comes through, and then you're able to take the funds out of the account, and I just did the legwork of getting it all set up.
His quote was $53.10 for
Okay.
18 of those baskets, which is like $300 each.
Okay.
And I had actually done the same thing. I reached out to them and contacted one of their salespeople. They quoted me just completely off the street, the exact same. If you want to buy 18 of them, they knocked $100 off instantly off that basket by reaching out to them.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yep.
I was sweating the numbers here.
No, it did work out and I had the same
Okay.
concern.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We need a second. He did.
I made the motion to buy all the baskets, the T signs, and to set aside the funds for concrete so that we could get started on the expansion immediately.
And I'm on his committee, so I shouldn't second.
I will second it.
Have a motion and a second. I don't think I have to repeat the motion. We all know. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay.
So Michael, you can go ahead and give that information to Miranda. You can email it to her on the Patriot baskets.
yes, I'll give her.
And then if you could please reach out to Red Wing and just ask them if they'd be willing to, if they want to. That would have to go back through Miranda. I'm sure they'd be cutting a check towards her or whatever. But as soon as we have the new 9 or all 18 baskets, we could go out, yourself, myself, whomever, we can replace all of the 9 baskets and then they could take possession of them if they want to come here or work with you as soon as Miranda's paid.
Yes.
That would instantly start recouping some of this
Some of the
cost.
money, yeah.
That would be a big chunk right away if they were
Yeah.
willing to spend $2,000.
We need to get a sponsor list going, so we can start getting the sponsors and having,
If you want to email back to the email that I sent out to Mary and myself, we'll keep it just about the subcommittee. I'll start an Excel spreadsheet and I'll get that all going. I'll help coordinate all that.
okay.
So I'll get a spreadsheet for all the sponsorship.
Yeah, that
Zimmer Lions.
sounds good
Yep.
to me, and I can get that going, so that we are able to kind of get the ball rolling on that. I also sent you the Google Maps stock of kind of, I have, there's a lot of different possibilities that I've, kind of come up with. If in
Perfect.
case there's like some conflicts with where a basket could be placed, and
We'll reconvene with the subcommittee and we'll get all that ironed out. Once the materials are here, trust me, it'll be full speed forward to get her laid in there.
all right.
Fundraising went up quite a bit with that concrete, the way it sounds.
Right, I still don't think with.
$3,700 from the 800. That was.
We got 36 places for a dedicated, isolated sponsorship, and then the community map thing, which is another 16 or 15 locations. I don't think we're gonna have any problem recouping 100% of the funds for even the startup for this. And to Michael's point, this is residual income that year after year. Now this is an annual sponsorship. We'll reprint all those sponsors annually. That's just money coming back in. This will recoup itself, no problem.
And also similar to Ford, they were going to make a big sponsorship donation to be on the main title sponsor for the sign. So,
Yep.
and I know he was super interested when I talked to him, and he's like, come back with me with a good sign and show me what it's going to look like, and then we'll go from there. So basically, that's kind of where I'm at, is finishing up the design, and I'll present it to him probably sometime this week, so he can see it, and then we can kind of go from there with what he is willing to give.
I think you, myself, and Mary should get the subcommittee back before we go out and knock on too many doors too, just to make sure, because I think Fred's got a good point. We want to make sure all the local businesses get a chance to get in there first. Obviously, Steve Johnson or the Ford would be one of them. But I think there's going to be plenty of demand for this. I think we're going to have no problem filling these spots.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep, thank you.
Can we put the skate park on the priority list?
We wrote it down, I think, on hers. So.
Gee, awesome, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You did put the skateboard park down for priority?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Are we estimating that at 20,000?
talk to Mike.
Talk to Mike.
I know Mike's got some figures on it, and I didn't know what that all included. I thought it included, he was talking that one time he came of another ramp or something. Okay, any more on the priority list?
It was only an hour.
No, it's only
Not
been,
even done yet. Miranda.
it's only been 2 years and an hour trying to get this priority list dialed in. Pool update, what do
Yes,
we?
we had our first meeting with Ehlers to look at the capital plan. It was just the first look for staff. We're supposed to be getting PDF copies of that so we can start marking it up. We won't be able to do the $6 million, but we knew that. Unless our tax rate goes to 118%. But, so we're still trying to hone in on a number. There's a lot of moving parts yet. A lot of things we need to fit in there. I had it in the plan in 2020. Do you remember? No, you didn't see that. Kim's not here. 2020 something or other, 4 or 5. That's where I slotted it. So
My thought while we're sitting there waiting for that, I know we had a pool committee and I think we come up with a pool, but is that probably something we want to dial in again, what we wanted for sure?
Well, we discussed that the number was kind of the driving force because we couldn't fundraise until we knew what the city was going to commit to. So now do we know?
No, we don't, so not yet though. We have a lot of tweaking to do.
Right, but I, not even knowing the numbers, the pool we looked at before was a pretty good sized pool.
Right.
And the more I think about this, we don't need much more than what we have, in that one net. We talked about mirroring Chatfield's, and that had a big area and stuff. The more I look at a pool, we need a place for lessons and for them to get cool in a hot day, because, when we first looked at this, we were gonna do the double the size, and because for growth in the community, and, we've more than doubled in size since we built that one, and I don't think we max it out on a hot day. So my only thought is even the numbers, do we wanna look at more where we wanna go with, because originally they talked about they could refurbish this thing for, $2.5 million, we know that by the time we get going, a Chatfield pool is gonna be 6 million. Well, can we do the same thing with a $3.5 million pool, getting the kids wet and not having so many?
What would the goal of the committee be? So you're asking for a committee to be
Well, I think with the
reinstated, but
park-
what would they be looking for?
I think the park board probably can go to that decision at this point, couldn't they?
You'd be looking for a revised plan from Burbach again?
Well, that's what I was, right now he's waiting on how much they're gonna give, because he didn't want to start fundraising. But I'm not 100% sure we know what type of pool we're gonna be fundraising for. I mean, is that something that we want, I guess what I'm asking, do we want to bring Burbach back sometime this winter and just,
They put together a pool, something like we have now, only zero depth entry, a couple of amenities.
because we paid them all that money to be able to, they can do many phases of it.
Right.
So,
They even have to come back? Could we just tell them,
Yeah.
the footprint that we have?
do
Replace
similar to
it.
what we got, zero entry and have,
So you're just looking for an updated quote to refurbish this, to Brian's point, with a few of the newer, like zero entry and a splash pad or amenities.
Right.
because I went over and looked at the reviews, they got their splash pad right. Yeah, what I've been hearing from people, what they don't like about the splash pad right in the pool, because it's part of the zero entry. So you got all these little kids wanting to use a splash pad. They don't go very far and they're in 2 feet of water. I don't know if there's something that, I know Mike wants to keep it all one, so we have all the same mechanical running it. But I thought if there was a way a guy could have a splash pad with I don't know.
I can't remember which pool it was, if it's Pine Island. I have never been there, I've only seen the photos of it. But they almost have like a short wall that divides the splash pad area of the pool from the deeper area of the pool.
And
So
an
they would,
opening between.
so
or
it just
something.
provides a little more security
I
for
think it is Pun Island.
I think it is Pine Island.
See, when I,
Ways zero entry though for people that need to like wheel.
But it doesn't, it's
There'd
not
be
all
no-
the way closed.
there'd be an opening,
There's an opening, so you
There's
can
an
go
opening in
through.
it.
It just kind of provides an
not the
extra
whole
barrier.
width would be open.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, okay.
I like good use and stuff, but I told Mike, I said, I would like to see the splash pad come a little further out, to where it's not much water.
So why don't staff will reach out to Burbach, we'll tell him, give us a couple examples of some, probably the same footprint of a pool, but just different amenities. Because I think that the kids are missing the diving board, so I think we should really consider putting that back.
Like where the diving board used to be, I mean, if we did something like that, I think we can put a diving board there and still,
I mean, that
we
rock
don't
wall-
need a huge slide, because, the kids that we're trying to get are from 0 to where they can ride their bike, the teenagers.
It's the preteens and under, 13 and under.
So we can still have a little slide in that area and move that wall somewhere else and stuff. But yeah, that's just my thought is like, we can keep the size down. Because I just have a hard time spending $6 million for something that gets used 3.5 months out of the year. I just,
Keep it around 3 million would be a nice number. Really?
We'll bring that back.
Yep.
Sometime this winter, probably.
yeah, that's what I mean. We got
I'll
all,
do it.
Don't tell them at the Capitol thing that we're cutting it in half and then they cut their budget in half for us to get.
I'll, yeah.
We need
no.
all the help we can get.
It's, yeah.
but just for that reason too, there's a lot of stuff that has to get done in the
Yeah.
city. So it doesn't make sense for us to take the whole.
Well, we would never get the
We
whole
can't. So if we
pie,
can cut back a little on our end to where they can cut back on what they, I know we got to do some fundraising.
Because we've got bonding caps that we have to worry about too and all that good stuff, so. But yeah, I think that's a good idea and I'll get a hold of Josh from Burbach sooner than later, because if I don't, I'll forget, so.
Just, he can start throwing, because, I mean, we got a lot of money invested in them guys already. We might as well use them now.
Now that the pool is doing okay, the pool house is the one that's giving us the most problems now. The
Really?
bathrooms, we might not have any bathrooms in there pretty soon, the way the pipes are rotting out, so.
Right.
So that's why I think even while we're waiting there, we got to get ahead of the game on a design, so we're ready to roll. Okay? Anything else on
Knock
that?
wood, the pool's okay today,
Mhm.
but Burbach said it was 2-3 years max. That was a year and a half ago.
Okay,
Nothing else on pool.
Brian, you got stuff on Emerald Ash Borer? or-
Yep, Mike's got a memo in there. He spoke with Bob the Bug Man about treating trees. I had heard a little bit about treating trees, that works pretty well depending on the tree and depending on the infestation. Well, within the park there, the main area that we want to try and preserve and try not to take those trees down is that canopy area leading in. I mean, that's beautiful. And the guy from Bob the Bug Man said, yeah, I can save these. They're not infested a lot yet. They're very treatable. There's some dollars involved in treating. To treat all those trees, just about $2,400 every 2 years. But once you get about 3-4 treatments in, we might not even need them anymore. But to be able to keep those trees for, well, maybe forever, I think is a big thing. So I think allocating $2,400 to that every couple of years is a no-brainer. Rather than going down the road of, and I think the Department of Agriculture guy spoke to that too. He says that in Mike's memo. Otherwise, the course of action was going to be take, 2 out of every 3 down, and then put one more, a new tree in the middle, and then that'll have to grow up, and it's gonna.
We gotta pay to take them down, we gotta pay to buy new ones, we gotta.
Yeah, and I wouldn't recommend paying to treat any other trees in the park. Even if we could, way in the back, there's a lot of trees back there. We can put trees in, but that
Canopy would be nice to save.
Oh, gosh, that is just a huge thing for the park, in my opinion.
Yep.
It's welcoming.
I agree. But then the map here says he's got a second section,
Yeah.
like 11 through 14 there. It looks like that's something different down maybe towards the campground or something. I agree with at least testing it and trying it and see how we can save the 10 trees in the
10.
canopy area.
What that road
Oh,
thing is.
are
there.
those,
That's the pathway.
those just keep going?
Yeah, there's a few more down there. It's not all the way to the camp. Oh, yeah, no, it's not.
So
to
It's
the
right by
camp.
the soccer field, just the ones right on there.
Yeah. So it appears that trees 1 through 10 are 2,400, and then if we do
Oh, yeah, you're right.
the 4 others, it's 3,100. So if we do all 14, it's
Both
3,100.
sections, correct. But just section 1 is 2,400.
Section 1 for sure, because that defines the canopy.
Correct.
11 through 14, they're going to be okay for a while anyway, just the way they are.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of years out of those yet, not even doing anything to those.
Is there any risk if they're untreated to
Will
the
they
section that
spread?
we're treating? Or should they be removed sooner rather than later if we're not going to try and save those? My assessment is the same as yours. I love the canopy in section 1. I would do anything to try and save those trees and not have any of them replaced or lost. Because the replacement trees are going to take forever and it's going to look out of place. And if we can keep that, it's very picturesque and provides all the shade for the soccer families and things that are down there, the vendors, just the enjoyment of the entrance of the park. As far as section 2, I'd be okay with getting rid of those if it's too costly, if there is any adverse effect to keeping them versus saving section 1, I would start to consider eliminating them right away.
It looks like that's Mike's request is for section 1.
We could eliminate those and put new ones in there that will grow up.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep, and we're looking at starting another tree nursery as well.
Good.
So, and we're looking at ash borer grants from the state to start taking them down. Well, you first have to assess every tree in town that we own. And then we'll start taking them down as we go. And then replacing, there's a grant for replacing as well.
Does anybody have?
Is there a
any
grant for
questions?
treating?
Not that we found,
Okay.
but something to look at for sure.
So do we need to have a motion on this?
Yep.
I would like to make a motion that we try and treat the 10 trees in section 1 per the quote.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Got to approve the budget.
You saw the last park board meeting, it's an additional $15,000 in there. It's parked, I believe is a good word, on their part-time summer help. Now, whether you use it for that or not, it's up to you. If you use it somewhere else, then that cuts into the summer help. If you use some of it, then, you know, that's kind of how that's going to work. But basically, it's an increase in $15,000. In 2023, they can move it around if you choose to reallocate, but then we'll not get the summer help or as much of the summer help, depending on what you do with it.
So the summer help that you had this year, that kid, did he work part-time for the city and part-time for here then?
Yeah, he was part of the city, the public works part-time budget this year. With
Okay,
the
'cause
summer,
some of-
we would build some in to the park board going forward.
But do we already put a percentage towards,
You know, I don't even know I don't know if he even took anything out of the park board this year for that.
but normally she does, doesn't she?
She
For
would normally, yeah.
Because you had
Well,
your
yeah,
city guy
there's a-
going,
There's a typical allocation.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, but it wasn't anything extra for the summer person.
Okay.
And it would work the same next year, because we're gonna hire it's in the preliminary budget to hire a streets FDE that would spend a lot of time in the parks too.
So this is probably more of a question for Kim, but where does the balance of our budgeted dollars go? Because it appears like we budgeted for 79,513 this year, but we've only spent 42,000. So we still have like $37,000 left in our budget. Does that roll over into our budget for next year? Does that go back to wherever it came from, or?
It goes, it's in your restricted funds here in one form or another. And likelihood, well, you're gonna spend some of that up. You spend money tonight.
Absolutely. And
So
that
you'll
was kind of
spend
my
some of
question
the-
is like, what's left in the fiscal year for, obviously this is just through July. So we don't have the August dollars yet, but August, September, October, November, you got 5 months left and $40,000. Like, where does that, do we know what we spend on average in the last quarter? I mean, are we gonna come out ahead behind? Is that 15,000 already gonna kind of be rolled over into next year? It looks like it's gone up, significantly in the last, and we talked about this last meeting too, that just because of the price jump for everything, that it went up considerably. But for 3 years, we held the line on the budget at 66, and then it jumped up $10,000, went from, 69 up to 79. And now we're jumping it up 15,000, but that's just for a part-time helper if we decide to. If we back it off, we're saying that we can keep the same budget we had this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting more money as we go here. And that's been kind of the objective and the want for years is more money in the parks. And so you can see it is going up. Whether or not it goes back, I don't, you're right, I don't know exactly how to answer that. I know typically the way Kim works a budget, there's not numbers that go back, but she can go back and pull out what you spent and what should be left, and it would be in the general fund somewhere or in a fund somewhere. But you're 15,000 over in 2021, so does that mean we pay that back?
Right.
So those are the questions I don't know how to answer.
It looks like the revenue's coming directly from current taxes, so it looks like the revenue dollars went from 54 up to 69, so the 15 grand is there.
Yep.
So the revenue is there.
Yep.
And if we don't foresee any of our other funds, or I should say costs, going up, we should easily be able to allocate those 15,000 or move them around if we want to towards that summer helper, so.
Yep. We can have another budget boot camp later on with Kim to go through line item by line item, and then it's going to get much easier too. We're going to be able to present the budget way easier once we have the new system. A lot
I'm all
more
for that.
understandable for me. So Kim understands this because she's been doing it for 17 years. For someone, even me, coming in to try to understand the movement of the dollars is really hard.
Correct.
The way it's laid out now, so.
I would definitely appreciate that. I've asked for that in the past, so that would be excellent. Does anybody have a reason why the budget should not be approved? Any concerns? I mean, staying status quo, and then we've already got the additional revenue of 15,000 that's there. There's no reason why we couldn't approve an additional 15 if it's already in the revenue. So I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 budget.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the 2023 budget. All in favor?
Aye.
New business, park benches. I think Mike talked a little bit about that last month, and he just talked to me, or maybe he's talking to me about it. He would like to, so many people want to donate benches, so he'd like to just get a approved one from this, so they all kind of stay the same. And sometimes some of them get a little, not sturdy. So I just think that would be a good thing to have in there that.
We could still allow people to pick a color, so they could still kind of customize it that way. They don't all have to be black or red, or you could still, I think even doing just a variation of colors would still be fine.
Plus they get to customize it with their own unique plaque on there.
Yep.
I've heard nothing but positive comments about how wonderful the uniform red stuff looks up at East Park. So I 100% support a standard and like this versus, not that the old wooden 8x8 benches don't look good, but to have this nice uniform bench like that is fantastic. So he's looking for us to make a motion to say if anyone wants, this is the default bench. We know the pricing. We know where to get them. They can choose a color. They can get a custom plaque, do their thing, but they're paying for the cost of that stuff. I would obviously make a motion to support that.
I'll second.
On the park benches, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That's it?
I got one more informational item for you guys.
I've got one too when you're done.
Oh, you have one too? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll do mine first, really quick. On Saturday during the festival at 10:30 at the Veterans Memorial Field, they're doing a dedication. And they would like to personally invite all of you guys to be there.
And now for Fred's speech.
Yeah.
I would love to go, but I will be working.
They even had me reach out to the people that were on the board back in 2019 when we started it. So.
At 10:30?
10:30.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so this is, a number of months ago, we talked about doing a survey when we were doing the campground stuff. This is the section of the survey that has basically private property butting up to the park, and also is kind of outlining a good share where the campground would be. So obviously it became necessary to do a survey as we move forward or try to move forward with the campground. So we know where the property lines are. It's really hard to read. We've got a big one over here. And we can send an electronic file as well, so you can zoom, blow it up. But the numbers 1 through, I can't even read it. 1 through 13, no, 1 through 1 through 11, yeah. The numbers.
It was like,
Depending
which
on
number one are
Which
we
edition
talking
you're on.
about?
If you're on the 4th edition, I'm assuming you're talking about?
Yeah, so no, I'm talking about the numbers.
Notes on the side?
The surveyor's notes on the side.
One through
Oh,
11.
I was,
Those numbers identify encroachments into parking. And so there's varying things encroaching from landscaping to sheds to wood piles. There's a truck or two parked in the parkland. And we're gonna just have you guys just think about it until the next park board meeting and what you might want to do. If it's necessary to get everything out of the park. If you're okay with having them encroach on parkland. You know, there was a big push to save green space and save as much parkland as possible. Well, we've got private property on parklands that should be dealt with.
Right.
Rochester dealt with theirs. I found what they did. I knew they did something a while back where they gave everybody a little bit of time. Actually, they didn't give them much time, but they gave everybody a little bit of time to get their stuff out of there. Some of these properties were bought with sheds in the parkland. A little more time for them, should you choose to want things out of the park. You know, so just be kind of mulling that stuff over and thinking about it until the next park board meeting. We can talk more about it then. As to what we might want to do and why. But there are a lot of
Appreciate
things.
the information, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously this all came about because we were talking about putting up a natural fence or barrier or something between the
Yep.
campgrounds. So that
Well-
would still be a future consideration, obviously.
Absolutely. It was, you know, talked about how close the campground was going to be to properties. And I think what we're seeing is that the campground is even farther away from properties than we thought it was. In fact, the properties are closer to the campground than they should be in the campground.
Did the homeowners know that we were doing this survey?
I
Did the homeowners know we were doing the land survey?
don't know, I would assume whoever was home would have seen them walking around out
They,
there.
they weren't notified or anything.
No.
No.
There's
Which
stakes.
for a survey, you
I
know.
walked at lunch the other day, I walked by and there's stakes that are in out there, so.
So do they put,
But actually, and the other thing, this was talked about in 2018, Mike said. What was talked about doing a survey out there, way back then, before that. Well, I suppose the campground was talked about then too, so it's been talked about forever, so. So this started that long ago when we finally got the survey done.
so, is there, I know they got some stakes up, but do they put?
Did they put pins in? I hope
pins?
so. I hope they located pins out there. But I know the stakes are there.
My suggestion would be, then we should take coffee cans, dig them out, cement them in. So I know we've got this now, but, and then we can locate them without getting a surveyor back out there. And that's what we did out at the church out there. We went around and put, and then left the stake there and everything, but the stake's gonna get pulled out.
Yep, and we can talk more to Mike about it, but he just wanted to bring this up for awareness now and discussion.
And what we should do about it is what.
What we should, yeah, be thinking about, if it's a priority to get things out of the park. They made everybody get things out of the park. Out of you know, encroachment structures, landscaping, storage, disposal in, park areas. Well, they went along waterways, right-of-ways, trail corridors, forested park areas, and general parklands. And they were talking 10 days to get things out on this one, which I wouldn't advocate for that.
Yeah.
I'd advocate for,
If we could give them a little bit more time than that, but yeah, as we consider it, I think the sooner we act on a nice, fresh survey or give them an opportunity, if anyone wants to refute the survey, to get their own survey or anything, not that, I mean, it would allow the time to do that. That's why I would suggest moving sooner rather than later to decide, like, let's just, to Fred's point, let's establish this so everyone agrees, so that when the future decision is made to put up a natural green barrier or fence or campground or whatever, then all of this is a moot point because it's been discussed and worked on for months or years or whatever it might be.
yep, absolutely. So,
So
yeah.
if we could get an electronic copy of that so we could actually read it. Will definitely bring up some interesting conversations.
Suggest earlier to do this. I won't be on anymore.
And, you know, whatever you decide, we're not saying you have to do anything, but advising that. I think the standard has been set in other communities that parklands are supposed to be parklands, and I think that's what we heard. a lot of,
Mhm.
so,
I think everyone was in agreement on that point.
yes.
Yep.
Yep. And again, it wasn't to do with that. It started in 2018 with the campground as well. As part of the campground discussions that started way before that. And it just came into focus now when we went through all of our public meetings and thought, yeah, we better find out where the property lines are. And I think there was direction from the park board to get the survey done, so. Yeah, so,
We talked about it long enough to like, I mean, especially when he came back and said it was only $2,500, gonna answer a lot of questions.
anyway, just food for thought for next meeting.
Yep. And probably some strong food for thought, because we're gonna probably want to make some decisions probably next meeting on this.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll entertain a second.
And a third. To adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right.